When you follow your joy, you are contributing to the whole.
From yoga and meditation to personal transformation and growth, Gaia is here for you.
All of us have the potential to become supernatural, with a little understanding of how extraordinary we truly are.
Hey everybody, welcome. All right, let's get set up here. Ba-ba. All right, it is, well, as usual, Beginner's Day. And, I mean, I remember, boy, do I remember. It's easy to forget when you were a beginner, right? It is so easy to forget. Even after like a year, you kind of forgot in a way what it's like to be a beginner. You remember those days where like it just felt like everything you did, you were using your wrong hand. Everything was clumsy. Everything was awkward. Nothing sounded good. Nothing, right? And you thought, what am I getting myself into? Like literally. Like there's no way this is going to happen. And now look, I mean, there's some of you here that have been at it for quite some time, long before I came along, and then there's some that just started. And look, I'm willing to bet that most of you have definitely made better progress than me. Right? Like I'm almost going to say that I'll bet you, unless you're in your first few months, because it's hard to make progress in the first few months, but I'll bet you there's people like I took a long time to get this figured out. Okay. In fact, well, I took 3 years before, like I always tell people, like I took 3 years before I actually started to learn the guitar. I know that sounds crazy, and it's not really true, but it's a bit of an exaggeration. But if you're joining us today for the first time or the second or many times, but you've just started playing, all right, don't worry. It gets easier and it gets better, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I muddled around with this for, if you include my downtime in between quitting and starting and quitting and starting, 3 years. And that's a long time. And there are people that in 3 years, they're playing little gigs. They're writing songs. They're playing good guitar. Me, I was really just spinning my wheels. So today, we're going to go back to the basics, right to the beginning, for those of you that are either just coming home from the guitar store, and you got your first baby with you, or, you've been kind of knuckling around for a little bit and trying this, trying that, not really sure how to go. So today we're gonna start from day one, and we're just gonna do some very, very basic, here's what's what, and then we're gonna get into it. And by the end of today, I'm gonna give you a clear path as to where we're going with this. Okay. Let me just get your, okay. So, yo, what's up? So as I said, at the end of today, you won't be able to play the guitar, okay? But you will have a clear strategy as to where to go and why to do it this way. Now, look, mine is only an opinion, okay? But what it is, I'm showing you how it kicked in for me after 3 years. And then within 6 months after that 3 years, man, I was playing gigs. I was playing a little local coffee shop on a Sunday afternoon. I live in a little tourist town, and I was playing gigs. And I was going around to open mics. I was writing songs. I mean, it just took off. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. Now, I've been doing that for almost a couple of years now in different ways. Today, we're just going to, put it all in a nutshell and start from the beginning. So, the very first thing, all right, that you're going to do is you've got to familiarize yourself with the guitar. And for many of us, we've never played a guitar. We've never strummed a string. We've never played a note, nothing. Okay, that was me. Never played a note of music in my life. And there I was, 50 years old, trying to learn this musical instrument. So the most important thing is you've got to get familiar and comfortable. Now, you're not going to get, 100% comfortable right away. It's going to take quite a while. Just like it does anything. It takes quite a while to be comfortable holding your new tools at work if you're a mechanic, or with your new computer or your new laptop or your new phone or your new, whatever, your new car. It takes a while to get comfortable with it. So that's going to happen. There's going to be some, you got to start feeling good in your hand, and it doesn't right away. Right? So there's nothing we can do about that other than just keep picking up your guitar. And the more, I used to carry mine around. So everywhere I went in the house, I'd have my guitar, I would sit down. I really didn't know any chords. I knew this E, and I had to keep looking at it. And I would just do this. And I just did it all the time for the first few days. All right, so then we've got to do exactly that. I call this part of the process boot camp, all right? Because we're not ready to play, okay? We're not ready to play songs. what we have to do now is we have to start gearing ourselves up to be able to play chords and songs. We don't know any chords right now, right? So what we need to do is learn our first chord. Now, whatever chord that is, there is no advantage or disadvantage. It's whatever you want to do. So, for example, my very first chord was an E major. And that was because it was in the book, Guitar for Dummies. Okay, so there's my first chord I ever played. That's all I knew how to play. So that's why I would walk around the house doing this. Okay, now the second chord I learned how to play, which was kind of silly because you don't ever transition between these two chords. But I think they were just trying to make a point in the Guitar Book of Dummies there, or whatever it is, Dummies Book of Guitar, in that here's your A major. Okay, take this finger off, but leave everything else the way it is. And you've just played your second chord. That's E minor. E major, E minor. E major, E minor. Now, I didn't know at the time, and I'm going to tell you now, that you're never going to play an A minor or an E minor to an E major. It's not going to happen. Now, what you might find is you might be doing you might be jamming on an E one day, right? So you might be just playing this E chord. Now, I don't know if you see what I'm doing here. And it's great when you're starting out because right away, day one, you add texture to your chords. You start to sound like you're playing music. So all I'm doing here is I'm playing my E chord. And you can just strum it all down, whatever you know, okay? And what I'm doing here is, once in a while, I'm lifting off my fingers to create that. Now, obviously, when I do that, I'm not playing an E chord anymore, okay? But we're not worried about that right now. That's what I did. Then I lift my finger, put it back. Lift these fingers, put them back. Right? That's okay, just to get everything started. All right? Now, the reason we don't want to learn those two chords right away is because, again, you'll never play them. And the whole idea of getting started on guitar as quick as possible is the ability to learn two or preferably three open chords that are in the same key. All right? Now, you don't have to know what keys are or chords are or any of that, so don't worry about that. I'm just going to tell you why this doesn't work to begin with, because it doesn't allow us. It's great that we now know two chords, but it doesn't allow us the ability to transition from one to the other in a song, because that doesn't happen. Because there's a reason it's E major and E minor. They're not played, other than what I just showed you, in that the odd time, just to break things up, you might take your finger off the E and put it back, just to give it a little texture, but that's not the purpose here. We're not going to play any songs that way, right? We want to start playing songs as soon as we can. So we're going to have to learn two or three separate chords. Now, furthermore, we need to learn those chords in the same key. Now, again, you don't have to know what's the key and what is a key and what chords are in what key. That I played for, years, 3, 4, 5 years without knowing anything about keys and chords, right? So, but we do have to know that we are learning 2 or 3 chords from the same key. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 sets of chords that you're going to start to learn. Not all of them, just any one set of 3. Okay? And those are going to be the D to the A to the G. Okay? So put together, that would be those 3 chords and only those 3 chords. Nothing else. The whole world does not exist for you right now other than those 3 chords. Okay, now remember I said that, now because I'll touch on that a little bit later on in the show. So there's your 3 chords. Now these are all chords, not that you need to know this, from the key of D, right? They are the 1, 4, 5 chords. Now, the second set that you can learn, okay, would be G. Oh, we've already learned G, right? See, that's why going forward, it gets easier. Once you've learned your first 3 chords, when you go to another key, there's a lot of times where there's a repetition of chords. So in other words, the G can be in 3 different keys. So you don't have to learn that other, you only have to learn 2 more. And in some cases, you only have to learn 1 chord new, and you've got 3 new chords in a new key, or 3 chords in a new key, right? So in this case, G, C, okay, and D. Hi, Randy. Welcome, buddy. Yeah, this is the low pay grade, okay? And we're starting from scratch on Beginners Tuesday. We're only going to have one more Beginners Tuesday. That's next week. We'll still keep the Thursday show, but I'd said earlier on we were going to go to March on the Beginners one. So next week's going to be the last Beginners only show, all right? But we'll still be here on Thursdays, and we will incorporate a little bit of beginner stuff into that as well, right? Okay. All right, so now we have D, A, G. We have G, C, and D. Now, that's your granddaddy, all right? That's your 3 big ones that once you learn how to play G, C, and D in any combination, C, D, G, G, D, C, D, C, G, D, G, C, and all those combinations, right? Once you can do that and do it what I call seamlessly or transition smoothly, meaning, at first it's going to be okay? I get that, and that's going to happen, right? But more about that in a minute. So there's another set of chords that you can learn. And then we're going to keep it simple and just do one more, okay? Now there's a CFG that we can do, but the F in there requires that you play a bar chord, which is F, or this F here, which is a derivative of that bar chord. It's not one of the beginner's 8 open chords that we learn. So I'm going to leave that one out right now, okay? And we're going to go and jump over to the key of A, okay? And in A, we've got A, D. Now, you already learned your D. And we got E. So whichever one of these 3 sets that you learn first, rest assured that when you learn the other sets after, you're already going to know 1 or 2 of those chords. So you're really going to have to learn 1 chord, and you got a whole new set. Now, what does that mean by a set? Well, it means that what we've just done now is we have just played the major chords in a key. Now, in a key, there are 7 chords. There are, in a major key, 3 major chords, 3 minor chords, and 1 diminished. And in that major key, like the key of G major or E major or D major or anything that has a major after it, okay? That means that the number 1 chord is always going to be a major chord, not a minor. The number 4 chord is always going to be major, and the number 5 chord is, okay? So by learning the 3 major chords in the major keys, now we can do things like we could play the 12-bar blues in any key, okay, as long as we know what the 1, 4, and 5 is, the major chords, which I've just shown you, okay? And we can also play, probably a book of that thick of songs in all different genres, just using one of those sets of 3 chords. Not all of them, not 2 of them, only one set of 3 chords. We can play all kinds of songs. Now, some of the songs aren't going to be what you want to play, of course. They're going to be in different genres. They're going to be, they could be, Christian rock. They could be psychedelic rock. They could be, folk, whatever, gospel, country, and it just might not be in a vibe for you, but they're still songs, right? So when you settle on one, I'm going to today settle on G, C, and D. That's what I did when I learned. I settled on G, C, and D. Okay? So that's where we're going to start. Now, what I'm going to eliminate here is I'm going to eliminate the time, because we're going to have to time warp ahead, because now this could take you anywhere from a few weeks, well, to a year to be able to do this. G, C, D, G. Now you're going to notice when you play these three chords this way, slow and controlled, you're going to notice that you're not making music, but you are, like, there's something going on here. There's it's called a chord progression for a reason, because it's a progressive path of chords played one after another, and they seem to make sense. So let's do that again. We start on G. G, C, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. So you notice when we get to the D, it kind of wants to come back automatically. And there's a reason for that. Okay? So if we start in G, we go to D, C, D, C. It always wants to come. You notice that when you get back to D, we're home. We're starting out on G, G, not D. We're starting out on G, and we're leaving, and we're going to go to C, and we're going to go to D town, and back to C town. But when we get back to G, it just sounds natural that it's all over. Now, there's a reason for that, because we are in the key of G. So we're playing three major chords from the key of G. Now, whatever key you're in, now this is for later on, just put it up here somewhere. Whatever key you're in, all that means is when someone says we're in the key of G, well, what does that mean? What's the relevance? Okay, the relevance is it tells people that we are only going to play the chords from the key of G. Now remember, there are 7 of them. 3 minor, 3 major, 1 diminished. And we never play the diminished, so there's 6 of them, okay? So it's 3 majors and 3 minors. That's the first thing it does, okay? So it also tells people that might be playing lead guitar or bass or another instrument what key we're in, so that while the guitar player is playing over a G chord in the key of G, the keyboard player, the lead guitar player, could be playing a little 4-note box starting with, you guessed it, the G note, okay? So it establishes where everybody is to be. And also, just as important, it means that your chord progression is always going to want to resolve back to G. In other words, that's a musician kind of resolve, fancy music word, okay? But what it means is what I just told you, is that no matter what you're playing, whether it's a chord progression or a song, which is the same thing, a song is just a chord progression without the fancy other instruments and lyrics. So the chord progression that you're playing, 99.5 times out of 100, is always going to want to start and come to a climax to say, okay, I've wrapped this baby up on the G, which is the key chord, what key you're in. Now, if we were in the key of C, right, and we started with a C to the F to the G. Now that G becomes the one that's kind of like the clutch in the car, like it's going and going and you want to go down to a lower gear. So we go back to the C. And now this is the key of C. So C is where it all started. And C is where it wants to end. So that's, for me, the most important kind of part of this. So when I'm playing like at an open jam or something, then all I want to know is what key we're in. I don't care what chords you're playing. I'll figure that out. Between watching you, knowing that I only got 6 chords to figure out, I can watch you and say, okay, he's going from G to D, and then he's going to A minor, C, and back to G. So between listening and watching and figuring out that there's only 6, I'm going to play these 4, for example, I can figure that out one pass around, just watching the players, what keys we're playing. But I want to know if I want to play lead guitar or bass or something, I want to know what key they're in so I can know what note everything is going to resolve to. The keys, the chords and the notes are the same. Okay, so meaning in the key of G, there's a G, C, D chord, but there's also a G, C, D note. And they're also the 1, 4, 5 notes, just like they're the 1, 4, 5 chords. And everything, if I was to do a solo in G, I would start on the G, mostly, okay? And I'd want to resolve on the G, just like when I play a chord and I go off of the G, everything is going to be ear-wise to me getting back to that G. Well, it's the same with the notes, okay? So that's the relevance of the keys. So the way I always explain it is a key is a neighborhood, okay? So this is the A neighborhood or the G neighborhood. Let's say G so we're not all over the place, right? So G neighborhood is this big circle. That's the key of G. Now in the neighborhood, we have houses, okay? Now there are 7 houses in the neighborhood. And they're all numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just like they are on your street where you live. Okay? Now, the relevance of the numbers is quite simple. The G house in the G neighborhood is house number 1. The next house, which would be A, would be house number 2. And then the third house would be B, right? G, A, B. The musical alphabet goes from A to G, but it also depends where you start. So in this case, we're starting on G, so we go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, back to G. And they're all numbered, 1 to 7. Those are the houses in the neighborhood. Those are the chords in the key. And then the people that live in the houses, those are the notes. Okay? Now, all of the houses in the neighborhood of G, everybody gets along and plays together. All of the people, all of the notes that make up the chords that live in the houses, all are related to each other. They all get along, they all play together, they all get along well, and they sound great together. And that's your keys, chords, and notes. The people in each house are also numbered. So in the house of G, which is the number 1 house in the neighborhood of G, right, has inside of it, depending on the scale, 7 people. The G person is 1, the A person is 2, the B person is 3, the D person is 4, and so on until we get to 7. That's it. That's music. There's nothing else, right? So now we have keys, chords, and notes. So when we're playing our G, our C, and our D. Those 3 houses are playing within the neighborhood of G, and only those 3. Now I can play those 3 in any order, in any way I want to play. I could play 2 minutes on the G, go to the D once, C once, and play another 2 minutes on the G, and it will sound good. I I could play D, C, D, G, D, C, any way I want all day long, and it will always sound good together. And that's why so many songs are written, right? Or almost all songs are written only using those few chords in the key. So we're not going around taking an F chord from here and an E chord from there, you know, and a G sharp from over there. We're taking only the chords from that key. Of course, there are exceptions. There are exceptions such as songs with key changes, so that towards the end of the song, it might go up to another key, to an E. So we've been playing in G, and then all of a sudden, there's a part in the song where it just stops abruptly, and you can hear that it's a different thing going on. Well, now we're in the key of E, and we might have to play other chords after that, because now we're in a completely different key. But those are those songs you're not gonna worry about as a beginner for quite some time. All right? So all songs are written that way. We now know that. So we also know that if we learn 3 and only 3, the 1, 4, 5, remember the 1, 4, 5 house in the key, if we learn those houses, those chords, and only learn those chords, we can play not only hundreds and thousands of songs, but we can play the 12-bar blues, okay, which is a formula, a prescribed set of chords, and how many times you play, how many bars of music on each chord, and it's a formula that everybody knows. So you can play this in a group of musicians that don't know each other, that don't have the same interests, that don't know the same songs. Right? I mean, I've been to jams where, does anyone know, Big Blue Eyes? And someone said, well, I only know half of it. And someone says, no. Oh, does anyone know Big Bopper Owl? Well, yeah, no. There's none of that. You just say 12-bar blues, key of G, or whatever key. And everybody knows what you're talking about. They know the 3 chords that are involved, and they know how they got to play those 3 chords. So we can all play and jam without having to find a song that we all know how to play. All right? So that's the importance, as a beginner, to know the 1, 4, 5 chords, which is what I'm showing you today, okay? Now, as far as getting to that point as a beginner, where you can actually start making some music, again, this is the part that I just have to skim over, because this is where you have to go and do your homework before you can kind of understand what I'm saying, right? So all I can recommend to you is you start out simple. You start out all downstrokes with the strumming hand, because when we build our guitar foundation, which is what you are starting out to build. Now, what's a guitar foundation? It's your left hand working with your right hand. Eventually, not right away, but eventually your ears and your brain, okay? But right now, your ears and your brain, they're on the bus with lefty and righty, because left hand has to learn those chords I just showed you, whichever 3 you decide to start with. You have to learn how to fret them properly, and you have to learn how to strum at the exact same time and make sure that the pick starts on the right string and all that kind of stuff. And that's not going to take 10 minutes or an hour or a day. You're in for some hard work. And that's where the dedication, the passion, the perseverance, that all has to be part of what you're bringing to your guitar table. Because if you're just coming in here thinking, I'll just learn a couple of chords, and then I'll just go out with my buddies and just rip it at jams. No offense, but I don't think that's going to happen, all right? This is something that, yes, you can get pretty good pretty quick, but, in order to master the whole realm of guitar, I mean, there are people that spend their lives doing this, that have been in this 25 years and counting, and have still not mastered things, okay? So that shouldn't be your goal at our age and at most people's, situation. It should be just to enjoy your guitar any way that you can, any way that you want, right? And the easiest way is to just start playing songs with the 3 chords that you practice for, again, boot camp, right? So in boot camp, we're going to use those 3 chords that we're learning. Once we can get between one to the other and keep a rhythm. Now, there's all kinds of ways, ideas, whatever, to say, look, here's how you should get there. But you know what? Like, I quit and learned 3 times. And each time I did things different as far as my strumming. So I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to leave that one up to you. But I'm going to tell you what I did, okay? So I started with my GCD, and I just started 1, 2, 3, 4, change, 2, 3, 4. And even if I missed, okay, so 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I kept this hand going, even though I had to stop and look. I kept this hand going. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. I keep this hand going. 1. Okay? Try not to stop this hand. I know it sounds, well, why? Well, because if you do it the other way around, so in other words, every time you leave a chord and you try and you stop to reposition, to look, to do all that, which we all do. I did it for weeks, months maybe, right? We all do that. But every time you do that, right, if you stop this hand, you're kind of like cowing down to your left hand. You've got to get these responsible to each other. You've got to get these 2 hands working in sync. Some people call that muscle memory. I just call it you are sharpening and defining and refining the motor skills that are necessary to play this instrument. That's all you're doing at this point in boot camp. You're not playing music. You don't know anything about music theory. You're just getting these hands going. You're just preparing to fight. Boot camp. 6 weeks of how to shoot a gun, how to fight. 6 weeks of how to strum your guitar and how to play your first 3 chords. That's really the goal. If you end up learning more than that, you're ahead of the game. Okay? So if you give yourself 6 weeks to take your G, add a strum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, change, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. When you're comfortable at that point, now what we want to do is we want to keep doing with the GCDs, but with this hand, we're going to start, getting a little bit fancier. So we're going to add an up. So we'll do something like this. 1, 2, up. Down, down, up, down. Down, down, up, down. Down, up, down. Down, up, down. Down, up, down. Now this might seem so minuscule, but I'm going to tell you, the first time you strum up, this is a whole different ballgame. Especially if you've been strumming down only for weeks or months, like I was. Then all of a sudden, I couldn't do an up. It was like, remember I always use this, patting the head and rubbing the belly. I'm like, oh my God. And then, of course, because that was different, this was out of whack, and I didn't change properly, but only for a bit, half hour, an hour, a couple hours. And then I was... Right? We always want to change for now on the downs, okay? And if you're not ready to change, keep going. So if you're going 1, 2, 3, 1, and you're supposed to change now and you're not ready, it's okay. Change when you're ready. Okay? Now, there are all kinds of strumming patterns out there. Eventually, you'll be making your own strumming patterns. But for now, if you can learn eventually 2 or 3, that's all you need. You got 1, right? Now you might do 1. Or you might just go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so the goal here is to pat our head and rub our belly constantly for a month, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it takes. That's the goal, is to constantly put ourselves in this position. Because as humans, we'll figure it out. Okay, so as long as we keep at it, we'll figure it out. And yes, we'll make mistakes like that and like this, and we'll make all these weird mistakes. But subconsciously, we keep going with this hand. We take a breather with this hand. Okay. Oh, messed it up again. Keep going with this hand. That's this hand forcing accountability to that hand. Because if you keep stopping every time you make a mistake and watching, and you're not pushing yourself, you're not forcing your brain to work so hard, and your coordination, your motor skills, to make sure that you don't do that again. And that's again, what you're doing now, you don't realize it, but this sets up everything you're going to do for the rest of your guitar life, the rest of your journey. Whether that journey lasts 6 months, a year, 2 years, or lifetime, what you're doing now, you're putting in place what you will, there's none of this, okay, maybe in 8 months I'll be doing something completely different. Well, you might be doing some things different, but you'll never stop doing this, which is left hand, right hand working together, fretting and strumming. No matter how quick, no matter how intricate the songs, no matter what kind of music you're playing, no matter anything, you will always have to do these things. Fretting chords and strumming along. Always. Okay? So don't forget that. So take your time and build yourself a good guitar foundation. Left hand, right hand, ears, and brain. Okay? Now, as I said, your ears and your brain, the job of your ears right now is just to kind of make sure everything is sounding okay. And it won't always when you're starting out. Like I said, you're going to miss strum, you're going to miss fret, you're going to cause weird noises. It's going to happen. But your ear will notice it, and then your brain will say, it's okay. Yeah, well, we know, we're still new. We got, thanks, ear, we got it, okay? And your brain, all it's going to do, right, it's going to supervise this process. Left hand, right hand, and listen. That's all it's doing. It's supervising. Eventually, your brain is going to start thinking ahead. It's going to start thinking, okay, we've got a bridge coming up in the song where we're going to have to go to a B minor. It's preparing yourself split seconds in advance, right? So I'm just going to catch up with a couple of messages here. This is what we have to do, and we do this in everything we do, right? Anytime we learn a new hobby, craft, art, skill, sport, especially sport, there is a learning point where we have to build up the motor skills necessary to do what it is we want to do. We want to play ping pong? Well, guess what? We better get our hand-eye coordination with our right hand, or if you're left-handed, with the way the ball hits the paddle. If you want to play golf, tennis, you've got to figure out how to make sure that you hit the golf ball or the tennis ball and blah, blah, blah. It's the same. We're doing the same thing here, right? And just like in those sports, you're not playing tennis and you're not playing golf. 9 times out of 10, you're on the driving range hitting buckets of balls into nowhere. Or you're on the tennis court and someone's just using a machine, or your goal is to develop the ability to hit the ball, because without being able to do that, you can't play golf or tennis. So without being able to do this, you can't play the guitar. It's pretty simple, okay? All right, so now where are we? Well, let's fast forward 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and by now, with an hour a day, whatever it is, 25 minutes a day, I've heard, all this, okay, only 20 minutes a day, it's all you need, or don't practice 2 hours a day because you'll get sloppy. I've heard it all, and so have you, okay? The reality is this: the more you play, the better you're going to get strumming those 3 chords. Quicker. It's real simple. It's like anything. If you play golf once a week, you're only going to get better once a week. If you play golf every day, you're going to make improvements every day. Now, of course, you're going to take the odd day off. You're going to be sore. Sometimes you're just mentally not into it. And the same is going to apply here. But I say, if you're sitting down and you're having good constructive practice and things are working and it's sounding good, and more importantly, you're feeling good and confident, then if the buzzer goes off at 30 minutes, I say, if you don't want to, don't put the guitar down just because somebody said you can only practice 30 minutes a day. Keep going and practice as long as the passion, the determination, and the quality are there. Okay, so when you start going from, in your practice sessions, G, C, and D, and everything is going well, and you're probably hitting these chords 7 times out of 10 without a buzz or a weirdness or a complete miss, okay? And then all of a sudden, over a course of a few minutes, you're just getting sloppy, and your strumming is bad and you're missing. Okay, that's it. That's what they mean. I don't think they mean it's 30 minutes or else, or I didn't. What I mean is you practice as long as you're motivated and quality. The minute you get sloppy and start making all kinds of mistakes, put the guitar down. Okay? That's the way I did it. So now we're at that stage where we have learned 3 chords and only 3 in one key. Now, I'm going to come back to this, so in a little bit to explain something else. So we know 3 chords in a key. Well, now what we do is we start looking at songs, easy songs. Now, this is where a lot of people make a mistake. So we start looking at songs that use the chords that we now know how to play. And it's really important that we do that and only do that, just for a little while. So what I mean by that is, okay, there are all kinds of songs that are G, C, and D. We know that already. But there are even more songs that are G, C, D, E minor, G, C, D, E minor, or G, E minor, C, D. For now, don't give in to that temptation. Stick to songs. That's why sometimes we have to play silly songs like, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, okay? Because all we're doing here now is we're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're trying to bend those 1, 2, 3, 4s so they start sounding like songs, right? And the easiest way to do that is to play easy songs. So don't worry, you don't have to play them the rest of your life. It's just to get you going, right? Now, there are all kinds of great classic songs that are 3 chords, that are G, C, D, and you can start playing them right away. Okay? Now, when we get to that point, remember, we're still just playing our 3 songs. But this is the point where we really start to think about the right hand, right? And this is the point where we really want to start bringing in new strumming patterns, new ways of doing things, new ideas, okay? But we don't want to get out of hand. We're not going to get all crazy here because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? So what I mean by that is up until now, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's cool. Now we want to add a different type of strum to it. Now remember, you can't make any mistakes. As long as you're fretting the chords properly, you can do anything you want with the right hand because the right hand is the color, okay? This hand is the black and white outlines with the numbers in them, and this is the blue, the red, the yellow, and the purple. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. So this is, right? So now we're going to go. See, we're starting to deviate with our strumming. See that little hitch there? It's so simple and small, but it's relevant. I'm not saying to do that, I'm just giving you an example. Another example might be something like this. 1, 2, 3. See what I'm doing? I'm just hammering that first down on the first chord. And I'm strumming a little faster. So I've already gotten out of my 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I'm starting to break things up with a little up strokes, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, 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 down, up, down, up, down, down, down. Right? Just to break things up a little bit. Now we're starting to sound musical. So now when you're playing your song, right, whatever that song might be, you have no harness on this hand. You can do whatever you want. Anything you want to do it. Okay? The only thing you have to do is you have to stay in some sort of a rhythm, like a timing thing. You can't be all over the place. Like you can't be going. Like you gotta be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like there's gotta be some structure to what you're doing. Okay, but that just comes with listening and just comes, that's where your ear starts coming in, your brain starts coming in, right? Because now we're getting out of that whole mold of 1, 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3, 4, change 2, 3, 4. Okay? So when you get a song and all of a sudden you know that song, you can use your inner brain knowledge of how that song goes and try to replicate that with your hand. And at first, forget it. It's going to be very difficult, okay? But it's soon, you'd be surprised. So now you see what I'm doing here? Now, I'm not playing the D the traditional way. So the way we learned it was the four strings, 4 downs, and then change to my next chord. I'm actually playing it backwards. Play my C backwards. So see, you hear the difference? So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do a little, see, I did a little up at the end. Okay, so there's your basic. Now we can do this. Left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day. Never had to that was just all the D chord, right? But just strumming it differently to create rhythm, which is the heart and soul of everything. Now, the timing is something that every song has a beats per minute. Every song has so many beats in a bar and so many bars in a chord. So what I mean is when we go 1, okay, 2, 3, 4. Now that could be perceived as two ways. That could be perceived as 4 whole notes played pretty quick, or 1 long, slow quarter note. So what I mean is, if we have a bar of music, 4/4, you've seen that 4/4, the time signature of the song. Let's say it's 4/4, most are. Okay, so 4/4. So all that means is there are 4 quarter notes in a bar of music. 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the end of that fourth, that's 1 bar of music. 4, right? 4 quarters equals 1 whole. Right? Okay. If we were to do this, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the counting is the bar of music. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the playing is only 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we're letting it ring out. Well, that means we're playing 1 whole note. 1 times 1 is 1, or 1 for 4 beats is our 4 measures, as opposed to playing 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 quarters, or we can play 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, right? So that's a whole note. Now a half note would be 2 notes per 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's a half note. Okay? So basically, every song is made up of measures or bars that are put together. So you might have 2 bars of 4 G chords. So that would mean either 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or it would mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you might have, usually things are pretty sort of the same. So then you might go to a C for the same, 8 beats, right? Now those 8 beats could either be 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, or they could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever they are. Whatever the time signature tells you. And then we go to a D, and so you'll find out that as you start playing songs, the ones we're after, the simple ones, are the ones that have 2 or 3 or 4 chords in them, and they're all equally spaced out. So, see the stone twist in your eyes, see the thorn, da 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 da, and I wait for you. Right? They're all the same. Okay? What's that song? I have a picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. An image of you and me, and we're laughing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold me now. Whoa, whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4. 7, 8. Da, 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 da. Evenly spaced out, whether we sing or we just play. 8 beats, 8 beats, 8 beats, and it all just keeps rolling over. Those are what we want to play first, because that gives us time for our brain to process everything, right? Like, again, I went to say I was going back. I said I was going to go back. So remember when I said many beginners make a tragic mistake. Right off the bat, they choose the wrong songs to start playing on. Okay, so you get a beginner who's still a little bit flustered, that hasn't gotten, like, they can play 3, 4 chords, no problem, but it's still very, very tender. Okay? All right, well then, you're not going to start playing a song like this. You're just not going to do it, because it's going to throw everything off, right? Now, if you're one of those few that can do it, then go. That's the beauty of this. Go. You're going at your own pace. But don't jump too far ahead of yourselves, because when you do that, like I did, okay? When you do that, what happens is you start sounding not good, because you're making forced errors. You're making mistakes that you're not ready to do this kind of speed and stuff, and now you start making mistakes, okay? Yeah, in a way. Yeah, but we all do it, Randy, because you see, the reason we're learning guitar is to play those amazing songs that we all love. It's just that sometimes we don't realize that some of those songs are above our pay grade, and we shouldn't be learning them yet. Okay? So that's why it's so important to stick with those beginner songs. And what those beginner songs are songs that are 3 chords, okay? Easy chords that we know. And they're symmetrically perfect. 8 beats, 8 beats, 8 beats, 8 beats, 8, and we can apply basic strumming patterns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, or whatever the strumming pattern is, right? Ready for the change? Change. That's why it's important to build our confidence, our inner self-esteem, get our brain thinking that, hey, ear, these guys are sounding pretty good, right? Like, they're sounding pretty good here. Let's give them more determination, and let's give them more confidence to carry on. And that's what happens in anything we do. If we try something and we're crap and we don't see a way out of it, well, we quit. We throw it to one side and we try something else. And a lot of people do that in their first few months of learning the guitar because they're not getting anywhere, because they have no plan, they're not sure what to do, and the most important reason is they've started to take on things that they have no reason and no right to be doing. They just don't have the skill. And this is the other thing that I told you I would come back to talk about. Now, somewhere in between, at the end of boot camp, we just put 6 weeks on that. It could be much sooner for some of you people, and it could be a little longer for some of you people, right? No problem. For me, it was longer, for sure. So somewhere at the end of boot camp, when you one day sit down and go, you know, right? I'm getting pretty good. Like, I'm doing everything. Like, I'm changing my chords. Okay? Exactly like that, Randy. I'm changing my chords. I'm changing my chords. I'm doing everything right. Okay? I'm starting to get not only confidence, I'm starting to get a little bit, a little overconfident, a little cocky, right? Hey, this isn't hard. What are they talking about? All right. This is where I made my most tragic mistake. That set me back years. And I don't want you to do the same thing. All right, so you've already seen them, and you're going to see them again. Those ads on your feed, whichever social media site you use, you're going to see these ads and these demonstrations, whether they're from people like me or they're those professional ones that are actually the ads that you watch before you watch people like me. Okay. And all of a sudden, you start thinking, hey, I want to do that because that is so cool. And I want to play these bar chords. Because the guy told me that if I don't learn how to play bar chords, then I can't play guitar properly. Okay? And then you might see a video of, that guy. Oh, if you don't know how to play triads, well, then you'll never be a guitar player, right? So you're thinking to yourself, because you don't know any better, and you're going, oh, geez, I better be learning those things, okay? Or the last one that you're going to see is, this was always my favorite, is I'm going to show you the one little 3-minute trick that all pro guitar players know that you don't, okay? And once you learn this 3-minute trick, okay, then it is going to literally unlock the whole fretboard for you. And you'll be shredding, in 30 minutes, your friends are going to be amazed. Okay, people, I'm sorry. There are no cheat codes. There are no chords that only the pros know. There are no secrets that unlock the fretboard. When I say unlock the fretboard, it means I am now able to play any chord or any note anywhere on my fretboard and know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I got news for you. Okay, that is not done in 30 minutes. It's not done in 60 minutes. It's not done in 60 days. Well, you know my point? So, the worst thing you can do, I'm not saying this is bad information they're giving you. No, it's good information. It's just information for people that are way further down the guitar journey road than you and me. Okay? There will be a time that you'll watch those videos and go, oh yeah, I see what's up. Nah, maybe I'll check that guy out and see, right? Because you're a guitar player, and now you're going to another level. You can't get in your car day one and drive around the block and say, okay, 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be in the Formula One race over in Monaco. No. No. Or learn how to play golf, and you spend 6 months at the driving range taking lessons, playing rounds of golf, and then say one day, you know what? I'm going to play against Tiger Woods next week. Well, no, you're not, okay? And that's what these ads do, is they give you this false impression that usually they're selling something, if you buy my course or whatever, that's what's going to happen. And it's not going to happen. Okay? The select few that actually have the groundwork put in place and have been playing the guitar for a certain amount of time will benefit. So like I'm saying, it's not a scam, and it's just too good to be true. And it is too good to be true. This is all good information when you're at a certain level with the proper guitar foundation. Okay? Then you can branch off into modes of scales and soloing and shredding the fretboard and playing triads and all that. Until then, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what anyone says, in order to effectively utilize the system of playing triads, you've got to know your fretboard. You've got to know your notes, your theory, how chords are made. You got to know all about the flattened third and the perfect fifth, right? And the diminished seventh and all this. You need to know that in order to do those things. So don't think that you're just going to download something and then 2 days later you're going to be doing all. It's not going to work. So the point of all this is to tell you one of the most important things you can do when you start playing the guitar is put your blinders on, okay, and just look straight ahead at what you're trying to achieve. Playing your open chords and making them sound as good as you can. Okay? So, for every time that you fall victim to one of these beginner's traps, that's what I call them, every single time you do that, okay, because I did it, and every time I did it, it added 3 to 6 months onto my journey. So in other words, I stopped progressing at that point, and I started trying to learn these bar chords, okay? And they were difficult for me to play. My hand hurt. I could never make them sound right. Even now, like I don't always, like that, that's okay. But I don't always get a nice thing to my bar chords. And that's a story for another day. But I thought, because the guy told me, if I don't learn bar chords, well, you're not going to be a guitar player. So I thought I had to do that. So I dropped everything, okay? I dropped everything, and away I went onto bar chords. And 6 months later, I quit guitar. So that was my first quit, and it was on the back of bar chords. I just got to the point where every single day I picked up my guitar, and all I sounded was like crap. Nothing sounded right. I couldn't go up and down that fretboard that they told me it was so easy to do. One shape, they said, one shape. And you can move all the way up and down the fretboard. And they are right. But what they don't tell you is that it takes so much practice. Because as you move around your fretboard, even in just that one shape, everything changes. As you move up your fretboard, your frets get a little smaller together. The strings, depending on whether you're set up on your guitar properly or not, the strings could get further away from the fretboard, making them harder to press in a unit, okay, as a unit. And so as you move up the fretboard with your one shape, things like that are happening. Now, all of a sudden, if you don't make those adjustments, when you come up to this end of the guitar, this is what happens. Okay, you've got to make the little adjustments to fit all your fingers where they're supposed to be. And that takes skill and practice and all that kind of stuff, right? So one of the biggest myths of bar chords is, and I'm not going to get too much into that right now, it's just that when they tell you it's just one shape, well, it's not just one shape. To play them effectively, you need 4 shapes, okay? And just like when you play your open chords, you're not going to, or any chords or anything, you're not going to play one chord here, okay? So there's your F. And then come all the way down here to your D and back to your F. That's not the way you're going to play bar chords. It's ridiculous, because not only do you have what I told you about, you got to make, you got your frets are getting really small down here. That's not the only problem. The other problem is, listen to the F here. It's deep and rich. In fact, it's the deepest part of the guitar. We can't get any lower. This is the lowest note right here. Right here is the lowest note, E, and then this is the lowest fretted note, okay? So if I go from here to here, you hear the difference? I'm almost like a mandolin here. And here I'm all deep and bassy. So what you want to do is you want to play your bar chords in the same area more often than not. So therefore, if I want to go from, say, G to D, I don't do that. I go G, D, right there. There's the D bar chord, there's the G. We're in the same part of the guitar, the voice isn't going to be the same. But anyways, that's for another day. So there's so many things about bar chords that people lead you to believe that you need to play them. Okay? Now, a caveat to that is that knowing all your bar chords, well, it's simple, will allow you to play every single chord known to man, pretty much. Right? Whereas playing your open chords, you are restricted to, well, 8 chords, okay, without getting crazy, okay? So what I mean by that is we can play a B minor like this, and we don't have to play it like that, because we can play a 3-note B minor, and that's called a triad. But in order to play that triad, I have to know what my notes are of the B minor chord. Then I have to be able to find them over 3 strings, 3 adjoining strings, everywhere on my guitar. Well, here, good luck. I'll see you next week. When you come back, show me 3 B minor triads anywhere on your guitar. How many of you could do that? Some can. More of you can if you sat down with a book or figured it out little bit by little bit and say, oh, okay, I think I found a B minor. There's the 3 notes over 3 strings. But we're talking, when you're playing guitar, you don't have that luxury. You can't sit there and go, okay, let's see, where's my B minor triad? I don't want to play the bar. Like, you got to know it like that because you're playing. And that requires advanced knowledge of the fretboard and advanced knowledge of things like notes and chords and things like, and how chords are made. Okay? And I've always told you, and it's so true, you don't need any of that to play the guitar. You can play for years and never have to learn any of that, right? So this leads us to cap off, do not, all of you listening have done this. I know. You've downloaded those courses. You've got the links. The guy sends you a fancy book or something, whatever it is, right? I think you all know what I'm talking about. But there are those of you out there that don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, don't do it. Okay? Don't fall for those beginner's traps. Stay the course. Learn your 3 chords and polish them and learn how to play them. And when the time comes, start adding other chords to your key, right? Or do the same thing with 3 other chords in a different key. Remember those 3 sets we started the show off? And I told you, here's 3 sets of 3 chords. So what you could do is if you learned G, C, and D, and you played with that throughout boot camp and beyond, and you got to the point where you can play those 3 chords really well, okay? Now you got 2 choices. You can add other chords to that key, such as an A minor. So now you can go G, D, A minor, C, G, A minor, C, A minor, G, A minor, D. You got more, now you can play more songs, more advanced songs, all that kind of stuff, right? I shouldn't say more advanced songs. The more advanced songs is when your right hand gets good, okay? All you're going to play with this hand is songs with more chords in them. So instead of 3, they're going to have 4, maybe even 5. Doesn't mean they're an advanced song. It just means there's more chord changes. That's all. Usually an advanced song is a combination of chord changes and serious strumming. Okay? And usually quick chord changes, like that kind of stuff, right? That's usually what I mean. And we don't want to do that right away. But as we get going with our 3 chords, we want to start playing those like this. Once we're there, now we can start either learning 3 other chords. Remember the A, D, E, A, D, E. We can start on that, learning those. Now remember, you've already put the hard work into the first 3 chords. You've gotten out of your beginnership. You've gotten through boot camp. So now, when you add 3 new chords, it's going to be a little weird at first, but the learning curve is so much shorter because you've developed this. Remember the guitar foundation: left hand, right hand, ears, and brain. It's all working together. Now it's just a matter of, instead of doing this, I'm doing this. Just 3 different chords, right? Or if you go to the D, A, G, well, guess what? You only have to learn 1 new chord because you've already learned G, C, and D. Now you're just adding an A. So now you're playing D, A, G instead of D, C, G, or G, A, D instead of G, C, D. So that could be another way to go for you. Now you can play a bunch of songs that are G, A, D, and there's another, hundreds or thousands of songs you can play with the chords G, A, D. So that's up to you how you want to proceed. Okay? But the point of this is to take your 2 or 3 chords, polish them up, use those chords to develop your right hand. Okay? It is, yeah, it's a lot. I don't know if you're talking about the cars or the thing, but so I'm thinking you guys might be talking about the cars, but the guitar is the same thing. It's so much work, especially at the beginning. But over time, boy, does it ever pay off big time on the back end. Now, here's another thing that's really important at this point in time. Okay? So I've gotten you now, I've given you a path that you can't do this any easier. Okay? Because we're avoiding anything that's difficult. Bar chords, fancy songs. We're putting all of our everyday, all of our energy and practice goes into doing the same thing every day. Okay? And we're starting to build that guitar foundation. Now, here's the beauty, and here's another thing that happens, is I don't know what the percentage is, it's very high, of people that start learning to play guitar and they are not playing that guitar 2 years later. It's sitting over by the fireplace and it's basically an ornament. Okay? Well, why is that? There's lots of reasons. Okay? Like, it's not because you couldn't do it. It's because, you know what? You kind of get to a level where, hey, you know what? I did this. And now something else has popped up. You know, you want to take up parasailing, or you want to take up rock climbing or fishing or, whatever. Or you just kind of lose interest, not in music, but you just don't have that desire to be the music guy anymore. I'll just listen to it, thank you. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? In fact, it happens to most people. And then there's another group of people that after a year they quit, and then they pick it up 6, 7, 8 years later. And they start off again. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I always say, unless you are aspiring to be a professional musician and make your living off of the music business in some capacity, you don't have to be into this for the rest of your life. Okay? But if you develop that guitar foundation, okay, where you can pick up a guitar and play 3 or 4 chords very well and have coordination. So let's say you put it down for 2 years, you pick it up. Yeah, you'd be a little rusty, but you know what? Your fingers will be sore again, all over again for a little bit. But it'll just come. It'll just come again. So you'll never lose what you got once you've built that guitar foundation. And you can get off this train at any time. And as I told you, you never have to learn theory. You never have to learn anything complicated or physically hard to do in order to enjoy your guitar. And as you get further into things, you start using a capo that will replace having to use certain bar chords. We can change the keys of songs to get rid of bar chords, okay? Not 100%, okay? Oh, I think that's a perfect strategy. And in a way, I probably should have been a little more precise, but in a way, that's kind of what I mean when I say polish the 3 chords that you know how to play. But you're absolutely right, Barb. So if you're playing a G, C, and D, there's so many things we can do with that D chord. And all the other chords, we can play them slightly differently. We can hammer on it. Like exactly what you just said, Barb. Absolutely. I would pursue that long before branching off into anything else, right? Anything to do with polishing your open chords, those 8 open chords. And sometimes we include that F chord as an open chord, even though it's not technically by definition an open chord. It's played like an open chord. Okay, there are no open strings in it if you play it properly. That's why it's not an open chord. But we can use that as the 9th chord because for sure it avoids us having to play this F bar chord. So absolutely, Barb. Yeah, the fingers, I forget just how sore my fingers used to be. And I can remember sitting some nights and the ends of my fingers were like, it was kind of like alternating between a burning sensation and like a dull ache. And I remember, looking and finally getting some calluses, thinking, okay, that's going to help. And it did. But I didn't realize how big the calluses have to be, right? And I mean, I look at my fingers now, and I mean, I don't have any fingerprints. Like I've got probably some, well, it's not true, but I mean, like I know the fingerprints are down usually at the bottom here, but like all this here on these 3 fingers, and actually even my pinky, is just hard skin. And even sometimes, and I still get sore. And I'll tell you when I get sore is when I do a whole bunch of note playing. Okay, I'm not going to get into this too much. It's more of a Thursday thing. But when we play our chords, we're told, to get right up, curl your fingers so it's only the very tips of your fingers playing the note, right? And the reason we do that is so that when we're fretting chords, we're fretting multiple notes to make one chord. And those notes are often in close proximity to each other. And a lot of times the undersides of our fingers can touch some of those strings and make our chord sound flat, that we hit a bad note because the bushy side, that side of our finger is touching one of the strings. And all it has to do is touch it. Like literally, look, I'm not even barely touching that G, and it's just a dead note. If I go a little further, it's a note. It's such a fine line, okay? Whereas when we start playing solos and notes and patterns and things like that, whole different ball game. We're only playing one note. So now we can come underneath. So let's say I'm playing, G, C, D, A minor, whatever, F. Everything, our hand seems to be kind of like in a 45-degree angle to, how we're looking. There's the C, there's the F. Notice how everything is like just pointed up this way. There's our G, and our fingers are pointing this way. There's our D, and our fingers are angled that way, right? A minor. Everything seems to be like this. When we start playing notes, we're more like this. So now I'm almost like bar chording it. I got to come from underneath, and I'm playing my notes. Now, so what if I flatten my finger here? I'm only playing this note right here. Okay, so in this case, I'm playing a C. I'm not going to play down here. I'm not playing chords. I'm not playing these notes. I'm only playing the C. So that's the only one that I'm going to fret. And when I do this, I can tell you right now, you can't see it, but my whole bottom of my ring finger is on every chord leading to the one I want to play. So in this case, it's C right here and D with this ring finger right here. But my C and my D, the strings under it, I'm completely muted them out. So if I hit them, so if I'm going like this, and I do that, I'm either going to play a nothing chord, or in this case, I guess it might be a minor chord, a triad, or it's going to sound like that, because I'm not touching it enough to fret the note, so it's not going to make a note. But my real intention is just to play this one note. So everything changes when we start playing notes. And then you start developing, your callus starts coming a little bit down into your fingerprint, right? Because you start getting that burn all over again after you've played 2-3 hours of just scales and notes. You're like, ooh, but it's in a different place. I just thought I'd bring that up. So the calluses may never stop, or the pain may never stop. But you're right, yeah. And remember, once you've built up something, it's there, and it's going to take a lot. Now, if it's only 7 or 8 weeks, you may not retain it. But if you're playing songs and you've been buzzing around this for quite some time, and then for whatever reason your guitar goes down, like mine did for the first time was about 4 months, and I got re-inspired, and I picked up my guitar again. And yeah, the fingers, I had to re-go through the fingers, but it just didn't seem as bad this time. And of course, everything else comes quicker, because even though I failed, I still had something from the first try that made the second try quicker and easier. And then I went about another year, and I put the guitar down again for this time about 6 months or maybe more. And then before I picked it up and actually made it the third time. But yeah, so, that's the thing. I personally, the third time that I did it, did exactly what you mentioned, Barb, is I took every advantage. Before I got into anything fancy or different, I took every advantage to optimize everything that I could physically do. There were some things I could not play, like there were just some chords where, like you mentioned, susses and sevenths and things like that, where I had to get a finger somewhere, like this A thing here, this A7, and I had a hard time with that. No matter if you play it this way or how you play it, I had a little hard time with that, but I got it. And the D came easy, but I don't know what they're called. I never did properly learn. So there's your D chord. One of these is a D sus2, and one of them is a D sus4. Which one, I don't know. But all it means is you're taking, as you know, one of your fingers, off of one of the strings. That's what most of these fancy versions of open chords are. When you see all those weird numbers and letters, it's just a matter of putting your finger in a different spot or lifting a finger off. That's all it is, okay? And without knowing the theory, you're kind of always in the dark and you're at someone else's mercy. But once you know the theory and you can look down and say, oh, if I remove this finger, right, this one here, well, let me see now. I am removing the third of the triad or the fifth of the triad or, whatever. You know what you're doing, and you can do the math. But there'll be a time, I suppose. And that's the whole thing, So when you get really good, when you get really good, then you can always go back and say, oh yeah, all right, so now that I know what this means, you know, where oh yeah, so if I'm in this chord and I remove this finger and I replace it with a pinky, you know, I got a C major 7 going on. But if I put, you know, there's my C major, like you start understanding that you're adding the 7th note of the scale. So if you don't know how to play it, you just got to find the 7th note of the C scale. B, right? Okay. If I put my finger on the B, there's the chord. That's how this is. So again, you know, all those sevenths and susses and all that is just knowing. So in a C chord, the C major scale is used to make that chord. So we use the 1, 3, and the 5, right? The C, the E, and the G. So if I want to add a 7th, well, if 5 is G, then A would be 6, and B would be 7th. So when I play my C chord, I got to find a B chord. Now there's one here, but that doesn't make sense because I can't play it and play the proper note at the same time. I can't do that. So the next B would be right here, right? Would be right here. Or it could be in the term of a B flat. It's right there. So that's all that means once you know your theory is, but you know, that's something down the road. But yeah, so anything you can do to embellish your chord, I would take advantage of it. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you do it this way, you'll always have a proper foundation. Again, so when you walk away and come back, you've already put in place, you know how to strum 3, 4, 5, 6 open chords, preferably all your open chords. That would be my expanded goal, would be to be able to play all of my open chords seamlessly in any combination, whether they made sense or not. To be able to just sit there and just rattle through my open chords. Because that knowledge right there that I just showed you, along with a capo, most of us are set for our guitar life. We don't ever have to worry about anything, okay? And I think I've all told you, I know players that no matter what the song, they take a capo out and they capo it to the key of C, or they capo it to the key of G, so that they can play chords that they know, right? And to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I put a video up a way back, and I think I've mentioned it here on the live sometimes. So for example, if you wanted to play a song from the key of E, now think about this, right? So this is E, the chords in the key of E are E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A, B minor, C, sharp minor, right? You see, this gets pretty complicated. So if you want to play an E, you just take your capo and you put it on 4. Now you can pretend that you're in the key of C, right? So you can play the chord shapes from the key of C, and you're going to play the same chords as we just went through in the key of A without the capo, or the key of E without the capo, right? So, for example, I always use this song because everybody knows it, is that a singer in a small town room, smell of wine and cheap perfume, or something like that, okay? So all the bar chords come in to play. Well, I can just, again, that's the key of E. I could just take a capo, put it on 4, and I can play these chords that I already know. A singer in a smoky room, smell of wine and cheap perfume, yeah. With a towel they can share a night, it goes on and on. And the beauty is, I'm still in the original song key of E, because I'm using the capo, but I'm not playing the song chords. I'm playing the chords from the key of C. If I was playing those original song chords with a capo, well, all I'm doing now is bumping the song up. So instead of it being in the key of E, it'll now be in F, G. It'll be in A flat. And that's not the goal. The goal is to try to stay in the same key. I don't want to confuse anybody out there, but I'm just saying that as you progress with your guitar playing, okay, you can play almost anything with just open chords. But you have to be prepared to take on a bit of theory. You got to know how to use your capo, okay? You got to know what it means, okay? So if I put a capo on 3, okay? So, hey, everybody, this song is in B flat. And you go, well, I don't know any chords. Like, I wouldn't know what the chords of B flat are, okay? Now, we can find out because we can just use the major scale. So B flat, C would be chord number 2, D would be 3, okay? And then D, so then we would have to go up 1. So it would be E flat would be 4. So we'd play something like that. Okay, we could figure it out. Or, let's say we put a capo on 3. Okay. Now, if we play a G, okay, with a capo on 3, so we play a G chord with a capo on 3, we're actually playing G to 2 frets would be A, 1 more fret, the 3rd fret, would be A sharp, which is a B flat. So if you're playing with someone and they have a capo on 3 and they're playing a G, okay, then you're going to play a B flat. It's the same chord, or you could play it here. It's the same chord as G with a capo on 3. Same chord. So what you would do, instead of learning certain bits of theory as you get to that point in your journey, you would just learn any theory relative to a capo. So then, you could play even more songs. So at the end of the day, there's going to be only certain songs that you still can't play with a capo or not, because it just won't work, right? But every song can be transposed into another key. Now, in that other key, you still might have to play a bar chord, though, or something along those lines. So it's never perfect. Even though you're using a capo, you may still have to play a B minor or an F sharp minor. And that's why, as per my last video I put up, the long videos, that's why I outlined how important it is. If you don't want to learn bar chords, no problem. I did, but then I never used them forever because they were too sore to play. But the 2 bar chords that I still use and I've always used and I play them pretty well because I learned them really early on is B minor and F sharp minor. And that's, as the video states, because when you start playing even with a capo, you still might have to, with a capo on, play a C sharp minor. And all that is your B minor moved up 2. Once you learn that minor bar chord shape, it don't matter where you put it. So instead of putting it here, I could just start it right here, D minor. Or I could start it right here, E minor. It's the exact same shape, B minor. It's just where I put it. So if you want to play a C sharp minor, you could play a B minor and just move it up 2. Or if you're going to use a capo, you can put a capo. Let's say they say capo here, And if I play a B sharp or a B minor with a capo on 2, well, guess what? I'm actually playing that C sharp minor. So there's all kinds of reasons the B minor is a very important bar chord with the F sharp minor to know, right? So, but again, I don't want to get into, we could do a whole show just on capo theory, which we will one Thursday, okay, on how to use your capo. It's not always to avoid the bar chords, but it usually, what you would use a capo for is you would capo certain songs in certain keys, like I did with E, okay? Because remember, E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A, B, it's all C sharp, it's all bar chords, except for the only non-bar chord is E and A. That's it, right? So if you don't know how to play bar chords, you can't play songs in the key of E. Well, you can. You can play one that I know of. Oh, there might be a couple, but let me just tell you what it is. You could probably play this one. Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think I'll understand. Da 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 da. That's it. It's only two. The two open chords in the key of E is achy breaky heart. Okay, so you could play that song, and there are a couple other examples, but for the most part, if you want to play in the key of E, you better know your bar chords, right? So that's why, you know, using a capo is. All right, Jeff. See you later, bud. Oh, where are we here? Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So as you know, guys know, I got to get my messages on another device. So I go and check them, and then I read them off in a batch and answer accordingly. Okay. So, oh yeah. Oh, I love noodling. Okay. So, all right. Noodling, for the most part, what is it? It's aimless playing. Like you have no direction. There's no structure or protocol to noodling. Okay? So noodling, for me, I noodle all the time. But for me, noodling is done with notes and scales and stuff like that. So I might sit there and think of, okay, so for example, I'm noodling through the A minor pentatonic scale. And I'm not really doing anything in particular. And all of a sudden, something jumps out like this. I might think, okay, so I'm playing. Remember, when we play a scale, we got to play certain notes. In this case, there's 5 notes in the A minor pentatonic. So I'm playing them, and I'm playing around, and I'm, you know. And then I figure, okay, so I can only play A, C, D, E, and G, right? Okay, so here's my shape. So there's my E, and there's my G. So where can I go from here? Oh, okay. Well, if I go here, there's another A. So now I got a G and an A, and I got a C and a D. Oh, wait a minute. This is all pentatonic, but it's not part of the A minor pentatonic shape. But by noodling around, I figured out that, hey, as long as it's a C, D, E, G, or A, it's... So by noodling around, I then found this position 2 box of the high part of position 2 of the A minor pentatonic, which was there all the time, but I never really realized it until I started noodling around. No pressure. You're not thinking. You're not like forced to think about what you're doing. You could think about what you want. And I just figured out that, hey, wait a minute, I can't play this note because it's not an A, C, D, E, or G. Because I was just noodling around. I had time to think. I go, okay, so where is the A, C? And next thing you know, 20 minutes later, I got the whole second position without looking at any sheets of the A minor pentatonic, so which we all know as this, right? 5 8 5 7 5 7 5 7 5 8 5 8. Now I can go. How cool is that? So I can play. Oh, and that all came from noodling, just like this is. So again, playing my A minor pentatonic one day, and I just figured, okay, so A, C, D, E, right? A, C, D, E, and all that. What if I play A, C? A, C, D, E. There's my A minor pentatonic. I've never played it like that before. But because I was noodling, A. Now I'm in the regular pentatonic, right? The regular minor, like, that's from noodling. So noodling with chords, you can still do it for sure. And that's a great way to figure out what chords sound good with other chords. So noodling is fantastic. I noodle all the time. I highly encourage it, right? Yeah, okay. So yeah, even if you just pick up your guitar for a few minutes every day. Like I didn't always go through structured lessons. Like when I picked it up, I had to have a reason to pick it up. I just picked it up sometimes watching TV, right? And sitting there and just, playing an E chord, noodling. Take my finger off. There's the A minor or the E minor. Down to the D. Little hammer on, little pull off with the pinky. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Oh. This is be what I would consider noodling. Always have trouble when I'm on a C or a G trying to do a pull off with that pinky. Right? It's easier when you're in D. Right? It's harder when you're... Because now what's happening is the bottom of my fingers are touching this E string, and I'm not getting always a good pull-off, right? Noodling, right? Let's say you're learning your bar chords. Finger a bar chord. And then make sure all the strings ring out. Go up to A. Make sure everything's sounding good. This is noodling. Now let's find a third chord to go to. G, A, G, A, G, maybe, yeah. G, A, G, F, G, A, G, B. Let's do that again. It's noodling. So the answer to your question, and thank you for the coffee, by the way. I forgot to thank you earlier. See, if it wasn't for Kevin, I'd have no caffeine in my life. I'll tell you that right now. But he has graciously purchased many coffees. Thank you, Pietro, for the same. Don't know if I see you, Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. Always appreciated. Dennis sent me a coffee after the last video that I put up, which was why you should learn your bar chords, just these two bar chords, and how it kind of unlocks things that we just talked about in other keys and whether you use a capo or not. And thank you. He said he had been spinning around trying to figure this out. It all made sense. Enjoy a coffee. Well, thank you so much. So in case you're wondering, I do have a link that says buy me a coffee. If you're wondering what that was all about, this is what it is. It's not necessary, but I do appreciate it, and it's, I guess, a way of showing some kind of support. So thanks. Thanks, Kevin and Dennis and Pietro. So yeah, noodling can often turn into a lot of really cool things. So I think a lot of people will say it's not good because there are those that think that every time you have to play your guitar, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, but there are some people that think every time you play your guitar, you have to be playing it with some kind of meaning, right? And I think maybe in those initial boot camp weeks, maybe that's the case. Maybe, that's the time when you really have to pay attention to make sure that you're getting, you're developing some good, solid habits, right? But, I'm not going to say that for sure. I'm just going to say I can understand why some people would think that. And for those people that say, if you develop bad habits at the beginning of your guitar journey, that you'll never get rid of them. And that's just not true. In fact, I had all kinds of bad habits. Too many to mention, to be honest. I never used my pinky when I learned my scales. I only used my ring finger and my forefinger. So when those minor pentatonics with the 4 fret spread across the top and the bottom, even though the bottom's, for whatever reason, easier for me, I always used my ring finger. So I would actually play that A and then toggle my whole hand to play the C like that, and then go back, and then I was okay for the rest of the way. I never did what you're supposed to do, which is this. I never did that. Now, I know it's hard to tell from this angle, but I am using my pinky. But I never did that. I did use my pinky, like Barb was saying. I always used my pinky close quarters and use them for like little extra notes. Woman, like I used my pinky there, but I never used it on the scales, like stretched out. I always just used my ring finger. And I did that for on and off for a couple of years. And you'll never get rid of it, they said. Well, now I play with my pinky. Because for me anyways, once you get good at something, then you could do anything. You can go back, you can unwind things because you're good. You got the confidence, you got the knowledge, you got the muscle memory. It's all there. Like, why can't you change it? And you can. Maybe some people can't. And those are the people that go around telling you, not to develop bad habits. I had a few bad habits, and, I taught myself, okay, someone said I was out somewhere and we were playing a song, and I just couldn't do it. It was just too much going on. It was G, F, G, F, C, D, or something like that. And I was just laboring. And then, my chords were sloppy and they didn't sound good. And someone would say, man, do you not know about the other F? I go, no. Like, what do you mean? I'm trying to play the bar chord and it's not really coming off too well. And they showed me that F right there, which is the same. It's just different. It's the same notes. I've explained it thoroughly in the Thursday shows, right? But once I went to that F, well, now all of a sudden, F, C, G became a lot easier. And then I was watching somebody at a jam one time, and I saw them going like this. I'm like, what's that? What is he playing? Well, he's playing a G, but it doesn't look like my G. It looks like that. Like, what's that? Right? Right. So, go ask your mother. So I quickly adapted, but I had already been playing about, 4 years when I changed my G. And at first it was like, oh my God. At first I was like, oh my God. this is impossible. I can't play a G like this. And every time I'd be playing and I'd have to go to a G, my instincts, my beginner's instincts kicked in, and I would play my G like this all the time. So then I had to start thinking, play it like that. And sometimes it would sound good and sometimes it didn't. But you know what? Honestly, it happened so quick that it's almost not worth mentioning. All of a sudden, one day I'm doing my thing and I'm going like this, and instead of doing this, I did this. And there's my new G. So now all of a sudden, I got my new G, and now I can just like whiz through those 1, 4, 5s, F, C, G, F, C, G, C, G, F, F, C, G, right? And it really comes in handy. So I was able to change the way I played my G 4 years in. So I don't believe, if that was the case, then what would happen is, if we played for 2 years learning guitar on open chords, that would mean that we would never, ever be able to learn bar chords or triads or power chords or scales or anything like that, because we wouldn't be able to do it. That's just a load of bull. You will notice that your guitar journey, is going to speed up the more comfortable you get. That's just human nature. So when you can play without really thinking about it, yeah, at the end of the day, so Barb, at the end of the day, right, especially in the early part of your journey, the more movement in your hand is only going to obviously mean more room for error. Every time, so what I was doing at one point, because I did learn my F bar chord. I didn't play it very well, and I tried to avoid it, but at one point I was playing F, G, and C like that. Yeah, it's terrible. And all of a sudden, it became that. The difference was night and day. So now my Fs, Cs, and Gs sounded even better because I wasn't, look at all the hand movement. G, C, D. Let's forget the F. G, look at my hand. G, C, D, G, C, D, right? There's a lot of this going on. And even other chords too. A minor, G, A minor, G. A lot of movement. So when I switch to that back, everything, so check out now the chords that seem to all be aligned here. So look, we got D minor, to an F, to a C, to a G. A minor, E minor. For the E minor to the G, I just got to do that. It's all there. Right? So what I tried to eliminate was not the fingers. You're always going to have to move your fingers. It's the whole hand. I tried to get away, which I did, get away from this. See, everything has to move. Your elbow, your wrist, your forearm. You got to change everything. Whereas when you play everything with your... Not only that, moving forward, if you were to continue on, remember, when we play bar chords, we are making our shapes now with our back three fingers. So here we play the A minor like this. Pointer finger because that's humans, right? Pointer finger, everything is with our pointer finger. So there's our pointer finger, A minor. But the minute we go to play bar chords, there's my B minor, or there's my B minor. And what's a B minor? It's an A minor moved up too. So now I'm playing here, look, A minor. Now you try to make an A minor right now with these back three fingers. It's hard because you're not used to it. But if you do it behind a bar, oh, it just pops up. Well, why do you think that is? That's because you sat there and you went like this, over and over. And you see how these three fall into that A minor shape? But if you just went there and said, I'm going to play an A minor and tried to hit it, you'll get it. And I'm dumbing it down a little bit. I mean, I know I can do that, but it's my point is that it's difficult because we're so used to playing A minor like this. But if you were to do nothing but this for a week, then it becomes second nature. Now what's going to happen is when you get into the world of bar chords and triads, you're going to be able to play, like for example, you'll be able to play this B minor triad. That's a B minor triad. No bar, but I'm only also just playing the three strings that I'm fretting, okay? There's with the bar, play the whole everything, and here's just those three strings. It's same chord, but you play it with your back fingers. Okay, so another time this happens is there's a really sweet, so this is an E major. Now, if you swap out these two fingers here with these two, so you're playing your E, so you leave the big finger out and you fret the E minor part shape of it with these fingers here, right? It takes some getting used to for sure. So now I've got the same chord, it just looks a little different, right? So I've forced out the big fat finger, okay? Don't like the big fat finger. So I've forced that out. Now watch. You can't do that if you finger your E the other way. I shouldn't say you can't, but you'd have to have long, nimble fingers. So let's do that again. Now I'm going to play it. All right, so I'm going to do it one more time, and it's an intro to a really, really cool song. So it's E, F sharp minor, G sharp, and that's the opening little riff to a song by the Allman Brothers called Melissa, a beautiful song, and that's the way it starts, right? Now you can't do it if you, like, you can't do it. So you replace this finger with these two. Beautiful, right? So again, this is for as you're moving down the line. This is a Thursday topic. But you know what? It doesn't hurt. The sooner you can start doing little things like this, the better off you'll be. Okay? So if we play that song, I don't know. Is it the same? No, it's not. But it's the same, if you know what I mean. All right, so the difference is, okay, so the E is the same. And then when we slide up the other way, we're playing this chord right here, which is an F sharp minor. But it's a triad. So I'm only playing the 3 middle strings of the guitar. Now that's one of your triad shapes. So you can move that up. I know it's hard from this angle, but forget about this fat finger. It's not touching my fretboard. It's my first finger and these two. So there's your E, okay? Slide it up 2, and what happens when we slide an E up 2? E to 1 is F, and F sharp. And because it's not a 1, 4, or 5, it's an F sharp minor. So we got E, F sharp minor, triad, and it's a movable shape, so we move it up 2 more. And of course, what do we got now? We got F sharp to G minor, and then G sharp minor. So this is a G sharp minor, played the traditional bar chord way, right? There's your G minor, G sharp minor. So all we're doing is we're only playing the 3 notes, first of all, not the whole bar chord, and we're just replacing our back fingers. So once again, from the back fingers on the E, so there's E, F sharp triad, G, back to the F sharp triad, back to the E. My guitar needs some work, so, but yeah, so you see what I'm saying? And that, you can only do that if you play it with your back 2 fingers. You can't, I mean, if any of you can do it out there, let me know. you got a career, I don't know, doing something with your fingers because you're pretty good. But yeah, you just can't get that spread. Well, I mean, you could with practice. I mean, you could. And that's the whole other thing. Again, this is more of a Thursday thing, but your fingers will adapt. So I know when I started playing guitar, like I don't have big fingers, like I don't have long fingers and stuff. And when I first started, there were things that I couldn't do. Like I couldn't reach, like even simple things like an E major 7 and putting the pinky here. Hey, Randy, for Like a Rolling Stone. Da, 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 da. Right? I couldn't get that pinky out. And then after a while, the pinky was no problem. And there are extreme examples like I just showed you with that F sharp minor. We can play it in the traditional way with this finger and these 2, right? But at first, you can't do it. And then after a while, you just seem to be able to do it. So don't panic or anything. You know, it's doable. It's just not easy. Right? Oh, that's a great song. You know why that's a good song? Not the Melissa, which is beautiful, but the song Rolling Stone. The reason is I used to play it at parties when I started getting to that point where I could play some songs. When we'd have a party somewhere and I'd whip it, like, what do you got, Ray? What do you got? And I would play this song. Why? Because the song in its original recorded state is they kind of, it's almost like a joke song. You know what I mean? Like they're making goofy voices and they're making like the guitar player goes view, view and little things. And it's kind of campy and it's kind of, well, you know, it's that kind of thing. I got a freaky old lady called Cocaine Katie. And it's like, so if you're not a great singer, you can camp it up with that song to disguise the fact that you can't sing. And it'll still sound great. And not only that, with a song like that, when you break it out at a party, you don't have to sing. Because as soon as you start, well, we're big rock singers, we got golden fingers, and we're loved everywhere that we go. And we sing about beauty, and we sing about truth. For 10,000, oops, see, I missed that, $10,000 a show. Ah, yeah, right? And there's all kinds of stuff going on that takes away from the fact that, well, you're not a good singer. Not saying that you're not. I'm just saying, right? But yeah, and it's an easy song, right? Even with that little the little E minor thing in there, it's not the better way. Now it's all decided to blow our minds, but there's one thing we'll never know. It's the blow that'll get you when you get your picture on the cover of a Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Ah, for sure. It's a great song to learn. But all right, people. So look, we've covered today. We went back in time and we covered the journey. What I think is the best strategic way to start playing the guitar. Oh, there's millions of ways. This isn't the way. And that's another thing, right? Lastly, is that when I started, first of all, I didn't have anybody to tell me, point me in a direction. So I had to kind of figure it out. And it took me 3 years to figure it out. And once I did, man, I was playing in no time. Like I was rocking it, okay? But the thing is, there's no one way to learn. Everybody is going to learn differently. So I think the most important thing is to make sure you learn in an environment and using a method that works for you, right? I think all I've done is I've been able to sit back and say, okay, in my opinion and from my experience, this is the easiest, quickest way to get from coming home from the guitar store, not knowing a thing, to, well, we're big rock singers, we got golden fingers, right? This is the fastest way. And there's a perfect example. 3 chords from one of those sets that I talked about earlier, D, A, and E. Okay, yeah, there's that little 7 in there, but you don't have to play that. That's just to, you know, make the song sound like the recording. You don't have to play that. You can just go right from the E to the A, no problem. But there's a perfect example. 3 chords, right? And all the difference is a little bit of right hand, a little bit of attitude. That separates it. So without the attitude that we talked about earlier, without this right hand strumming that isn't going 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, so let's look at that song. This is all it is. Okay, so the first day that I used a book called Guitar for Dummies, and they had a CD in there. And I had been sort of fumbling around for a couple of weeks, and I put the CD in. And they said, this is the key of A, okay? And these are the 3 chords to learn. So you put the CD in, and it sounded like this. And over again, okay? Well, if you think about it, okay, all we did just now was we took those same 3 chords and we just applied some attitude, right? So we rock singers, we got golden fingers, and we love everywhere we go. We sing about beauty and we sing about truth, but then, you know what I'm saying? Okay, that's all we did. We played the same chords as on that disc, right? Perfect example right there. Turning 3 beginner's chords into a hit song, right? And lastly, remember, I didn't do it with this hand. This hand did the exact same thing I say this a lot because it's so true. This hand did the exact same thing as it did the day I learned the chords. Well, we're big rock singers, we got golden fingers, and we're loved everywhere that we go. We sing about beauty and we sing about truth for $10,000 a show, right? We haven't done anything different. What's made it from 3-chord progression to a 3-chord song is that. Right? Okay, so, hey, we've got it. We just learned how to play guitar today. Or at the very least, anybody out there that's just come from the guitar store, or you're in your first few months, or you've been playing a year or two, but you're not really getting anywhere, there's a good chance it's because you're kind of going everywhere. You're doing a bit of this, and then a week later, you're doing a bit of that, and then a month later, you're doing a bit of this, and then you're coming back to that, and then you never really figured that one out, and then you're jumping over back to this one, and right? Where, now we have a plan that works. Because, look, you can go back through all my videos. You can go anywhere if you've joined me on the lives where I'm not teaching or whatever you want to call it, demonstrating, and I'm just playing songs. I play songs that I've written. Okay? If you watch me, everything I do is exactly what I put out in my videos or what I talk about in my lives. Right? So I don't sit here and go, okay, so just play, you got to play open chords and just do this and it'll, and then I turn around and you watch me play and I'm like, I'm playing triads and dyads and bar chords all over the place. I don't do that. I can play them when I want to or need to, but I practice what I preach, because why would you want, if I've got a steak dinner, why do I go out for anything less if I've got a steak dinner at home? Right? So I've got all the tools I need, which is my 8 open chords, my F chord, call that the 9th unofficial open chord because it's not an open chord, but I've got that, okay? I've got my B minor, I got my F sharp minor, and got my capo. And with that, so with my 9 chords, plus my 2 bar chords, and a capo, I can play, and I do play for 2.5, 3 hours when I would do gigs, just using open chords, a capo, and not all the time the capo, only when I need it, and a couple of bar chords. Do I play any songs that I have to go and play a C sharp minor or a G sharp minor? Yeah, probably one. And I haven't played it for so long that it's out of my repertoire. And that was, let me see if I can do it. I think it's, no, it's, no, it's, well, I tried to make it Monday, but I got so damn depressed. Right? It's Sister Golden Hair is the only song that I used to, and you can tell I haven't played it for probably years, and I've sort of got to brush up on it. But other than that, I play open chords, 2 bar chords. Now, do I sometimes whatever, I might play my A here or my G as a bar chord, especially when I'm playing this song, depending on how I play it, it's a U2 song. Sometimes I put a capo on 2, right? And I play, see the stone set in your eye, see the thorn twist in your side, and away for you, right? I play it like that. But then there's times where I don't use a capo, but now I got to use the bar chords. So now it is a key of D. So the capo on 2, I was playing in C. See the stone fit in your eye. See, and because, look, here's what's going to happen to you when you move down the line. Because I'm here in a B minor, my next chord that I'm going to play is a G. Now, I could do this or this, absolutely. And then I go to the D. I could. But as you progress, you're going to be here on your B minor and decide, well, my next chord's a G. I might as well just play it there. So now I got da 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 da, right? And then you're thinking, okay, well, if I just play my A here, let's see how that changes things. So I go da 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 da. Now I'm already in A. Da 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 da. I find it actually easier to stay in the bar chord mode for that part of the song instead of going back and forth. Right? Instead of going da 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 da. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. So instead of going da 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 da, it just makes more sense to start the whole thing in here. But I mean, I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying that as you progress, that's how things start to peel apart like your onions. So you start off with all your open chords, you play them really well, and you get confident and you get good, right? And everything's moving. Well, now, you know, you're so confident and you're starting to learn some bar chords. Now you're going to, on the fly, just go right to the bar chord. You know, or you just might do what I did the first example with just that one time from the B minor, because it's right there. It's like there's the B minor, you go over one and you move this shape up, one string every finger, and you're going from but these, again, this is like just adding another layer to what you've built, right? Inside, build it out, right? And you've seen me probably post videos where I take 4 chords and I play them all open, and then I'll play one of the bar chords the next time around, and then 2 of them the next time around, and then 3 of them, and then all 4 of them in bar chords. So then you'd be starting in D, right? Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right? And it's just a way to push yourself, and it's just a way to practice. But that's it. And when you're ready, right? So don't try to do that when you physically have trouble playing a bar chord. Don't do it. Stick with your open chords. Everything will build up. Your strength in your hands, your fingers, your dexterity, but most importantly, your confidence in the way you touch the guitar. You'll be so confident that you'll try anything. You know, I never used to play a B flat here like this. I could never do that. And I still have trouble playing those A-shaped bar chords with one finger like that. I have a hard time. I usually use 2 fingers, but whatever. Okay? All right. So, big iron. Oh, God, I wish I could, but it's going to trip the copyright. Like, I know the other song I did, it's under so many seconds, I don't think it'll trip it, but, big iron. Now, I play that in different ways, but I love playing it. I usually play it with a capo on 1 or 2. In the town of freedom, rode a stranger one fine day. While he spoke to folks around him, didn't have too much to say. He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip. And he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. Oh, I love that song. Marty Robbins. Awesome. I'm going to brush that one up too, because that's a great song. So anyways, and anybody has sat here for 2 hours and not know who I am, my name is Ray. I have a small, simple channel here on YouTube. If you're not yet a subscriber and you think I can help you, by all means, please hit that subscribe button. You get notified when I come live, which is at least twice a week. I many times jump on the weekends as well, sometimes just to play songs. I don't play songs during these Tuesdays and Thursdays because I generally like to try to keep the video up. And if there's copyright strikes, then I can't keep the thing up, but it is what it is. So anyways, thanks for joining me. We are going to have, I think it's one more week or might be 2 more weeks of the Tuesday show. And then we're going to stop for the summer, but I'm going to continue the Thursday show, and I'm going to incorporate some of the beginner stuff into that one, right? Thank you, Terry. So again, for all of you new beginners, the most important is to not get too far ahead of yourself. Don't fall into those beginner's traps where you think you got to learn all these complicated techniques. Stick with your open chords, because no matter how long you play guitar, no matter how good you get, you will always need to play in that open position. Always. You'll always play there. Okay? It's not one of those things where, okay, if I learn all my this and that, then I never have to play open chords again. No, you'll always play them. They're always going to be part of it. Now, of course, that if you end up being in the music business and you end up being a sideman or like a third guitar player in a band or a session guitarist or a lead guitarist, well, yeah, of course, you're predominantly going to be playing licks and riffs and triads and, rhythm, using triads for rhythm guitar and stuff. Absolutely. That's kind of not what I mean. I mean, as far as just being someone with guitar, you'll always play your open chords. And I've proved to you now, I don't know how many times, that's all you need is your open chords, your F chord, a capo, and 2 bar chords, B minor and F sharp minor. And with those 2 bar chords and that repertoire, I mean, you can play, you'll run out of time before you learn all the great songs you can play with just that equipment, right? And it's like anything else you do. You develop good technique and good skill, and you get real comfortable with what you're doing, you can do anything on guitar. And the learning curve is never what it is when you start. That's a one-time thing. Once you go through that whole boot camp, as I call it, so after 6-7 weeks, your fingers they're not as sore because you're developing some skin on there and you're getting used to things, and you're starting to develop the left hand, right hand muscle memory, or what I call it, motor skills necessary to play the guitar. And once you have those 2 hands working, now your chords start sounding like music. They start sounding musical, and you're well on your way. All right, so if you guys have any questions, by all means, let me know. I don't know about the Nicholson thing, but I gotta be honest. Unless it's you, I've had that comment. I've had that comment a few times about Jack Nicholson. Oh, look, it's Jack teaching guitar. I've had that a few times. I don't see it, but I understand. I've often looked at people and I go, oh, that looks like so and so, like certain characteristics, and then someone looks at them and go, no, it doesn't. So I get it. So. All right, Lance. That's a new name. You're new here, Lance? Or maybe you just dropped in and left the comment and buggered off. That's cool too. So, all right. So we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Any questions, comments, you know what to do. Send them along. Let's see what we got here. It's another good thing to do. Play along to backing tracks. They're not only for that. You can play your chords. Am I still backwards? I don't know why I'm backwards. I don't know why I'm backwards. Maybe I'll switch that. I wonder if I can do it without logging off. Am I still left-handed? So is this different now? If anybody could just tell me if I'm... Is this the right way? Oh, now I'm lefty. So it should be the other way. Is this the same? Did it change? That's crazy. I just switched where it says mirrorless or mirror or something. No change. So there's something wrong. I'll have to check it out. Maybe it's a setting in YouTube. Maybe I should be looking in YouTube. Okay, well. Son of a gun. All right. Well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah. All right, guys. See you later.